video, let's talk about the atom. So, what is an atom? Simply put, an atom is the basic building block. The basic building block of everything. But I'll put here basic building block of all matter. Of all matter. That'll be a much more better way to say it instead of everything. So that's pretty much of all matter. And matter is kind of everything except, air and all. Anyway, so how small is an atom? An atom is actually a millionth of a millimeter. So let's put that here. A millionth of a millimeter. Yeah, that's how tiny it is. It's a millionth of a millimeter. I'll probably have to add some extra spaces over here. So let me just do something. Make it a little bit more neater. So, 1 second. So you probably might see that phone over there. That is actually the thinnest phone, the Oppo R5. Oppo R5. So the Oppo R5 is super thin. It's at 4.9 millimeters. 4.9 millimeters. Now, if you do the math, that'll be like, since if it's a millionth of a millimeter, 1 millimeter will be a million atoms. So that means that this thing will be around 5 million atoms. Actually, 4.9 million atoms, but that is a lot of atoms. I mean, 4.9 million, that's a huge number. So, let's dissect the atoms. Now, before we go, I'd like to explain first shells and the nucleus. So, let's put right here, shells and the nucleus. So probably I'll talk about the nucleus right when we actually dissect these parts. But pretty much shells are pretty much the where electrons are located, and the nucleus is pretty much where where pretty much the proton and neutron are located. So anyway, let's actually talk about these. So what are protons? So protons have a positive charge and are in the nucleus. So like a small part of the atom. So protons have a positive charge. Now, I also like to note down that this thing is not to scale. So keep that in mind. So not to scale. This thing is not to scale. So electrons have a negative charge on the shells of the atoms, as I explained. Shells are where electrons are located, so shells have a negative charge. And neutrons have no charges, keeping both charges kind of in check, and is also located in the nucleus. So again, a nucleus is kind of like this is, for example, kind of pretty much a nucleus. Okay, so and also you probably might have heard that this part between the electrons and the shells and the nucleus is empty space. However, I would like to point out that this is not empty space. So empty space. Let's put this thing as empty space. And I'm going to do right here, scribble it off. That is not empty space. So that actually thing is something very interesting. It's called quark and gluon fluctuations. Now, just don't get that stuck in your head a lot. Just gluon and quark fluctuations. It's not much, but it just point is that this thing is not empty space. Because if I'm going to talk about quark and gluon fluctuations, it's going to be a huge lesson. But the main reason we thought it was empty space is that since these electrons and protons don't get affected by this fluctuation. So who discovered the atom? Now let me put it as straight as we can. That the that we cannot say that there was one person who discovered the atom. So there wasn't one person who discovered the atom. That is the main thing. There wasn't one person who discovered the atom. The atom. However, there were many people who came up with the idea of the atom. The first person to come up with the idea was a Greek guy. The Greeks always do this stuff. Democritus. So this guy over here is Democritus. 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 So he was the first guy to come up with the idea of the atom, and his things that the atoms are indivisible. That's actually what atom stands for. It's actually called atmos, meaning indivisible. And then there are other people, like guys like Dalton, Thomson, Rutherford, Millikan, Bohr, and so many others have kind of pretty much done research, and pretty much kind of came with the atom we know today, which is this model right there. So that's pretty much what I can say about who discovered the atom. So, watching this video, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.